Welcome to Cohesive Friendship Unit. I'm Chris. I'm here with Jake
Hey guys.
and Jeremy.
What is up?
What's up is we have some, I don't know, potentially upsetting news. I don't really know. Video games going into the PS5 and Xbox Series X looks like are going to be costing a little bit more, specifically $69.99. And we're going to talk about how we feel about that and maybe hit some historical context on what's going on and how we feel about it. Is it good? Is it bad? But before we get into all of this, we would love it if you guys would sub us. If you found this video helpful, please, or entertaining, whatever, please throw us a like and let us know down below how you feel about the potential hike in video game prices. So just to give a full disclosure, there have been certain publishers, specifically EA, that have allowed you to basically pre-order games at $69.99 for the next gen. So like your NBA 2K is currently listed at $69.99. It has not been officially confirmed by Sony or Microsoft that the MSRP is going to be recommended at $69.99 for all titles, but usually there's literally never been an example of these companies deviating from MSRP, and there's numerous examples. So it seems like $69.99 is going to be where we're headed, at least for a decent few number of titles for the next generation. So right off the bat, like, how do we feel about this?
No good.
Bad.
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 That's my money, and I need it now.
I have a feeling I'm going to be playing devil's advocate for a decent. And we were talking about this off mic or whatever a little bit. I think we're kind of ready. So like right off the bat, let's talk about the possible pros, right? Possible pros. I'm just going to list them off and you guys can talk about them. First possible pro, less microtransactions.
I don't believe it.
Not going to happen.
I would tend to agree with you. That's
Not correlated to price.
yeah, companies just don't like, if you can get away with it, you might as well get away with it, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. What about
Literally supply and demand.
what about limiting crunch on the industry or paying workers more, allowing them to unionize, have better working conditions, etc.?
Definitely not going to happen.
Yeah, that seems unlikely. I don't definitely it's not going to alleviate crunch. I don't see that happening. And I doubt it's going to trickle down, as one might say.
I
Shot in the dark, my guess is they will probably crunch the workers more.
Have you ever heard of stock buybacks?
damn.
That's what it's going to be for. Possible pros. Reggie gets a new Lamborghini.
Okay. So I guess the only other thing I'd say is we have kind of been lucky. Video games were at, for pretty much our whole lifetime, they were at either $49.99 or $59.99. They were at $49.99 through the PS2 and the Xbox and GameCube era. And then for the HD era, they jumped the price for $10. And we've been living in this this is the longest period, 2 generations, where the prices haven't really gone up or down in any direction. So maybe we can talk about why it's moving. I mean, we kind of alluded to why it might be moving. But also, I think it's also important to highlight that back in the cartridge days, games used to be extremely expensive. Like a Super Nintendo game could cost you over $100 US. It definitely could cost you $100 US to buy a new Super Nintendo game. I mean, there's a flyer I'll put up for a Toys R Us flyer for Doom being $95 US. So I don't know. What do we think about that context?
I think it's different. I think there's a lot of reasons why things cost more back in the day. I mean, when you are breaking ground, so to speak, like there were no tools back then. Now, I mean, pretty much anyone can create a game. There's enough engine tools right out of the box. Like Unreal Engine, you can write a whole game just using drag and drop blueprints that you don't really need to have like a full computer engineering, computer scientist degree to do any of this. So back when the cartridges were released, not only did it require more expertise, no Google, but you had to actually print a cartridge.
And those are like those cartridges have like physical memory chips and everything. They're much more expensive than pressing a disc.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think to also bring it back to supply and demand, if you go back to the 70s, that's when the Nintendo Entertainment System was released, right?
No, the early
80s,
to
early
mid
80s.
'80s.
Even so, in the mid 80s, adjusted for inflation, people had higher incomes. So there were, I think, were probably also just more people willing and able to pay a higher price for video games.
Yeah. It was also more niche than it is now. Like it back then, not everyone played video games, and I think if you polled 10 people on the street, at least half of them would say they play some sort of video game, whether it be Switch, PC, Xbox, or even just mobile gaming.
Well, now video games are literally multiple times bigger than Hollywood. Like
Right.
the gaming industry is enormous. It's the biggest entertainment industry,
Right. And how much does a movie ticket cost?
and that has been going up consistently. Well,
Yes.
so I guess yeah, let's I don't know explore the cost. So I'm just gonna speak personally about just the idea of it going up $10 per game, and we can talk about all the things that we highlighted earlier. But like, if the game price needs to go up $10, and by some, I know it's a long shot, but by some means the microtransactions go down, or there's a less or lower likelihood that microtransactions are introduced. We saw microtransactions this generation being introduced into single player games. If there's a lesser chance of that going away, and if there's a greater chance of lessening crunch, which I agree with you, Jake. We're both software developers. I don't see that happening for a number of reasons. But I would be willing to pay the extra $10 personally. But I also acknowledge that like I'm not a kid. I'm in a good position. I have a job, like all that other stuff. I don't know.
I mean, these companies have a fiduciary responsibility to generate as much profit as possible. Like, it is illegal for them to work workers any less than they are now. Like, if they can legally do it, they will,
Yeah.
if it makes them more money.
Yeah,
So
I
it's just
agree.
not going to happen. It's like there's no chance. They
Yeah.
might do it for like a year to like get a PR bump if they think that will help sales, but like it's just not a factor.
Yeah, and I think that's the crux of the issue is when you started, we announced that the people that are trying to raise the prices of their games are the big AAA publishers who are all publicly traded and all their sole responsibility is to make more money. If this was indie devs saying, "Oh, we want to charge $70 for their game," which they're already it's rare to see an indie game go above $30, let alone 60. But if it was small independent studios and people that were not just out there to increase share prices, then it would be a different story. But like Jeremy said, these AAA studios are just out there to raise that stock price, which means that $70 game, that $10 bump, it's not going to the employees, it's going towards the investors.
And these are the studios that are already making the most profit, that like have the best, you know, the best distribution deals with big box retailers that aren't, that are self-published, so they don't have a separate publisher taking a cut. Like, it's, as Jake just pointed out, it's not going to benefit like the small company that you like to think of when you think of a
Well,
video game.
let's explore that angle. I like Jake's angle though. Like, what if indie devs kind of banded together for some reason? I'm not saying that this will happen, but I'm just taking a theoretical here. Let's say all indie developers banded together and they said the new standard for indie game price is $50, knowing that these are smaller studios. They have to pay their publisher dues. They have to pay their Steam sale dues, or their Steam dues, or whatever storefront they're choosing to sell on. That's not a first party publisher, and they have to recoup the cost of development or have a chance at recouping the cost. Would you guys be okay with that kind of a price hike? I'm just
Or
I'm
like
just curious.
alternately, if they sold on a different Stormfront that like didn't take either as much or any
Well,
cut, but
so
it
I
was
mean,
strictly for indie devs. Like,
I
yeah,
don't
I would do that.
I don't want to be that guy, but the Epic Game Store takes less than Steam. Like they just do.
Yeah, there's a lot too. Like itch.io does less. but I would be more inclined to pay more. Usually, for me, the mental math when buying an indie game is how much do I like the game and is it worth supporting? So games like one of my favorite publishers, Supergiant, their games like Pyre and Bastion, they're not super long. They maybe last like 20 hours. And if you do the simple math of $30 for 20 hours of entertainment, that's not great. But I absolutely love the games and I love what they do. So I'm happy to pay full price for that. Uh, but I really don't think it's necessary that they do. I think you still make a lot of money even as an indie dev.
So, what about the base argument of there's more games to play than ever and there's more free games to play than ever? I mean, you can play Call of Duty Warzone, you can play Fortnite, you can play so many games for free now, and there's so many game sales and so many ways to get games for relative good games for next to nothing. Does the price hike even matter? I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah, I wanted to hit on that, but I didn't want to talk for too long. So sorry, I'm going to continue. But like, let's say you're publishing your game self-published on Steam, which is not hard to do, right? You don't need a publisher. You probably need PR, but you can sell it. Let's say you sell it for $10 and you sell 100,000 copies, which I think is not unreasonable if you actually put some PR, hired someone to promote your game.
And you make
I
a
don't
good
think
game.
it's, and it's good. I don't think that's unreasonable. And I think the calculus is a little different than a mobile game where people can just put out whatever they want. I think people that put out full games on Steam are a little more invested and they go into it for different reasons than a mobile dev. You're going to make $1 million right there. 100 copies, 100,000 copies, $10. That's a million gross. Steam takes out their 30%. If you use like Unreal 4, Unreal 5, they take out 5%. Say you hire a PR, so we'll round it down. We'll say maybe you're getting 50% of that, $500,000 for your game. That's a lot of money. Even if you have a team of like 3 or 4 people, that's a big chunk of change. And that was just $10. And I think it's rare for games to launch at $10. Most games launch at 20 or 30. So even a small game that only sells 100,000 copies, you're still making it pretty big if you put in a little effort and spend a little money to get your game out there.
Yeah.
Also, to your original point, Chris, like, there are lots of ways today that you can play games for cheap or nothing. Like, you can be patient, you can wait till 2020 to buy Civ 5 for like $1, and things like that. Like, should we even care that they would potentially raise the price of AAA titles on release? And like the answer, like, that's a separate question from all the other stuff. Like, I don't want them to. I see no reason why they should raise the price. Like, yeah, I don't tend to buy games at $60 anyways, but like that doesn't mean that it would be good if they raised it to 70.
Well, yeah, so that was my kind of follow-up point to all this, and maybe the last point, I don't know, is a lot of us don't, and I would imagine a lot of people who are clicking on this video, I could be wrong, most of their video game purchases are not at full price. And I don't know if we want to talk about what, like, is it the sheer price? Like, how do we justify it? I mean, I'll just say personally, I tend to buy games that come out on release for kind of 2 to 3 reasons. The first is if I really, really, really want to play the game. I mean, I have a fucking YouTube video game channel, so I I guess you could say I'm a little like biased. I'll fall into the hype train a little easier than most, I guess is fair to say. Like I will. Like I'll buy Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 day one. I don't give a shit. The second potential reason would be if it is like Jake kind of already alluded to, the developers of like Pyre. If it's a developer that I know and that I trust and that I believe in and that I want to support on day one, I'll buy that game on day one. Sure. And the third reason would be for games that historically basically don't degrade in value. So a good example of that would be Nintendo games. Nintendo games pretty much for the entirety of the console's life cycle maintain their full MSRP value. They're first party games, and I mean that's like a whole nother discussion. But for example, Zelda Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, those games are not going to go below $60, or they very, very rarely will in the entire Switch's lifespan. So if you might as well just buy it day one. Like if you're gonna either buy it day one or wait 3 years to buy it for the same price, might as well buy it day one. Those are my personal thoughts on why I buy games at full price. But at the same time, I buy a ton of games. I just bought 4 games on the Steam sale. Totally a thing that I do. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that. Maybe not.
I only like I've as you kind of said, I very rarely pay full initial sales price for a game. It's like as you said, just exclusively for something that I basically know that I'm going to like. Um, like probably the new Mario title, the new Zelda title, Nintendo titles in general that I've decided I'm going to get. I just get them. Smash Bros. And outside of that, very little. Um, I think we got the Halo Master Chief collection at full price because I knew I was going to play a significant amount of Halo, but there are not many games that'll get me there. $60 is already a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like $60 is a lot of money for a game.
It is a lot. And I agree. I pretty much the only game I've ever bought, or the only games I buy at full price, are Nintendo games at this point because they never go on sale ever. But I honestly, since I moved to PC, I don't think I've bought more than 5 games at the full $60 price. I've definitely found myself moving towards indie titles in recent years because I think not only are the games better, but they're not as expensive. Uh, so, yeah, I mean, honestly, I could say with complete confidence, I'm never going to buy a game at $70.
Ooh.
It's not going to happen.
All right.
Yeah. I would buy like Mario Odyssey 2 and Botwa 2, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here was my personal last question. We can keep going if we need to, but I don't know if we do. Cyberpunk 2077 is coming out this fall. I believe it is so they are doing the thing where if you buy it on the Xbox, I believe it's called Smart Delivery. You buy it on Xbox One. When the Series X comes out, you'll get it for free on that version. So basically, you're paying. You can buy it right now on Steam. It's $59.99. That's my point. Is that it's using the last gen pricing scheme, and you'll be able to get the free upgrade. I assume, I'm just guessing. I mean, I'll let you guys answer for yourselves, but I would guess Cyberpunk 2077 might be one of the games that you'll be buying on day one. Just a guess from what I know about. No, okay. Would you pay $70 for Cyberpunk? No. Okay.
I will not pay $60 for Cyberpunk. I'll wait till it goes down to $50 on its first sale. I'll get it then.
All right, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a firm r/patient gamer.
Yeah,
a good chance that I won't get it at $60 either. I will probably wait for the first sale. I don't know, $70. Like $60 is ingrained in gamers like us.
Mhm.
$70 just feels wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's been that way for 15 years.
Yeah.
I mean I would buy it at 70. I'm gonna buy it. I'm in. Like I'm gonna buy it. There's just no way. I'm gonna buy it day one. It's gonna be great. Maybe. Hopefully. I don't know.
I waited 3 years to buy Europa Universalis 4 on sale for less than $30. I have put like 100 hours into this game in 2 weeks. I waited 3 years for this shit. Okay, I'm not paying $70 for a fucking game.
One other thing I thought about is Game Pass. I mean, like clearly games don't need to be $70. Like Microsoft is pretty much committed to selling all of their games for $10 a month, all of their first party AAA games for $10 a month. And if you're like us, you're just gonna get Game Pass for like 3 months, play your game and be done with it.
I was thinking about that. I would imagine that Halo Infinite we will all play day one, including Brian, who's not here and is he definitely does not tend to buy games day one. I think we would all get Game Pass for $10 to play it on day one.
Yeah,
That's a guess.
yeah.
Maybe.
Even if it's just for a month, just to like see if I am gonna sink that much time into it, and then I spring the extra money to buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. All right. Well, is there anything else we want to talk about with this?
I think they should sell them for $50. What's up? I'm at.
Agreed.
$50? Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
You know what? Fuck it. $40. Let's go.
this is something that we didn't fully get into. I do fully think that I would be much more in favor, especially for there's like a lot of narrative in the video game journalism, whatever you want to call it, where they say video games are too expensive to make, yada yada yada. Single player games cost too much, they're not profitable, whatever. I would be super in favor of like $40 double A games, like basic like a Mario Odyssey with like 2/3 the content for $40. Like I don't give a shit. Like give me that. Like sure. Like why not? Like I would be totally okay with these like quote AAA studios pushing out more $40 products that are within like I guess what I'm saying is like the fucking game studios bite off more than they can chew. Like you could, you know what I'm saying? Like I get that they're competing with each other, but you can make a game within reasonable scope and a reasonable budget and it be good and it provide a good value and it doesn't have to be the full MSRP. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah.
I agree with the idea, but again, like what a company would actually do would be make a $40 game and charge you $70.
That's also very possible. Well, on that somber note, I think we're probably good. And Brian's not here, so I guess I'll fill in. Yeah, let us know down below how you feel about the $70 price tag. Does it totally turn you off? Are you going to still be buying games day one? Or are you going to wait for sales? Yeah, just let us know. We respond to all the comments, so Hundo P, hit us up. If you made it this long, you should probably consider liking the video because you watched 20 plus minutes of this video. And if you love us, sub us. And as always, smoke them if you got them. That's what Brian says. Yeah.
That's what he says.
That's what he says. All right. I will catch you next time.